Connor, and this is Spiegel.
Hey, I'm Spiegel.
We're here at WRAS Album 88 in Atlanta. And joining us today over audio is Pamela Valfer, otherwise known as Kitty Craft. She's an artist, educator, and beloved musician whose unique DIY songs and albums have found a new audience in the past few years in the streaming era. She's been embarking on a tour this year, and I know you're about to come to the East Coast, including a stop here on Halloween in Atlanta. So we will be there, and we're very excited, and we're very excited to talk to you today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be here, and one of the top shows I'm looking forward to playing for sure on Halloween in Atlanta. Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I gotta plan out a costume.
I'm excited to see all the costumes for the Kitty Craft concert.
I'm dressing up. I would hope everybody would. And yes, please come dressed up.
It's gonna be a very fun vibe, I'm sure. Yeah, and this is just a kind of funny not like a kind of funny question to get us started, but I noticed that on some of our social media accounts, you on social media you engage with a lot of our content, and you even invite us to collaborate on a post, and I know that throughout your career you've had a lot of involvement with Collage Radio, and I definitely want to talk more about that, but I'm also just curious on a style level if you have any special connection with RAS, because we were all wondering at the station I don't know, it was just it was really cute. We just noticed that you would comment on our posts and you would engage with some of our content, and we were all very pleasantly surprised.
Oh, I mean, I think it's just sort of the way that I like to move through the world, and it's just acknowledgement, and people that are doing cool stuff I just like to reach out and acknowledge. And so I think, it's just, I like what you're doing, and you seem to appreciate what I'm doing. And so, just making friends.
Very sweet. Yeah, I don't know if you want to start, or if I should just go off my...
Yeah, you can go into it.
No? Okay, speaking about, while we're on the topic of radio, I was just kind of wondering how, I don't know, it's just interesting. I some of your other interviews I saw you talking about how radio was kind of how you started and got initial popularity, and I don't know, it's just cool. I saw you talking too about how you thought it was cool that radio was still relevant in the modern day, and I'm just I'm wondering how you've seen, how have you noticed radio evolving throughout how it interacts with your career, but also just in the world and in art and music. How has radio kind of evolved from when you initially started Kitty Craft to the modern day?
I would say that I sort of roll it into the whole package of difference that's happening between I call it Kitty Craft 1.0 to Kitty Craft 2.0. I feel like it's a pleasant and refreshing surprise to see that college radio is still strong and still going forward. I'm very passionate about supporting college radio. I think it's the way that I know I've found amazing music throughout my life, and such a benefit not only to the college students and the college that support that station, but the local area around, and sometimes even beyond that, depending if you go can broadcast it on the internet. I think that in terms of the difference, I would say that back in the day, college radio, aside from touring, was the only way to get your music out, right? And so now college radio is maybe one of a few or many methods that you can kind of connect with people. Now that the internet is a thing, been a thing for a while, but now it's you can really be DIY, and I love that. Back in the day when I was 1.0. It was a lot harder to meet people and get your music out and get your music heard, and you're more reliant on power structures like labels, and you're more reliant on those kinds of machines. And now it's not that it's easy, but if you have the inclination, you can really connect with people one-on-one, and I really appreciate that about this. So in terms of college radio's place in it, I still think it's a place where people learn of new things, aside other avenues. I just hope and want that college radio stand strong for many years.
Mm-hmm. And like you talking about kind of like how like with college radio, but taking that further into like the internet and how like art has evolved. I'm also just curious on your thoughts, like from KittyCraft 1.0 to 2.0, but also just past that as an artist in general, and also like the other people, I'm sure that there are other creators in your life and stuff. How do you think for like, and also like like speaking in terms of like advice for like younger creatives now, like how do you think art and like the creation of art and like everything surrounding that has changed as like we've gone into the internet? Like you talk about like the good and the strength of like these connections in the DIY. But, like what, like I don't know, I'm just curious like what you think about like going more to that specifically, and also like the downside, like what other things you think have kind of gotten harder or worse for creatives in the modern day?
I mean, I think there's a lot of big scary monsters around corners, such as, you know, there's the burgeoning AI, and like there's, you know, it's kind of a bit of a wild west out there, right? You know, so I think it can be both intimidating and it can be overwhelming, but it can also be a vector of excitement, and you know, you can kind of make yourself who you want to be, and I find that space to be really exciting. There's less well-worn pathways to a goal, and to me that is always welcome. You know, the negative side is just maybe since there is more opportunity, there's a lot more voices, and you sometimes people feel drowned out, you know. And how does one, you know, build that connection with people when there's a lot of other people who are building connections? You know, it's a lot bigger of a platform to do so now. So I think that can be really intimidating by some people. For some people. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. No, I'll probably go more into similar. I did that, but yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering like if there's any ways, like there's like so much to talk about in regards to art and music changing from, you know, 20, 30 years ago to now, and I was wondering if there's any ways that your creative process, whether it's art or music, has changed in the now digital streaming social media era that maybe people don't anticipate, or that you didn't expect, that come as a surprise and change the way you work?
I think it's the role of social media, right? Like when I started, there was not this kind of outlet on the internet. I'm trying to think. Gosh, when I started, I don't even know if the internet was around. That's how freaking old I am. But I'm sorry, I just sort of went off on a tangent. What was the question again?
You're all good. I was asking if like are there any ways your creative process has changed that maybe you didn't anticipate, or that have come as a surprise?
I think the role of social media, for all that is beautiful about that and all that is horrible about that, right? Like, I think a lot of people are like, just don't want to engage in that side of things, and fair play, like, totally get you. It's but how intertwined it is. I think that was probably one of the bigger surprises in terms of connecting, and it's just more for you to be responsible on top of, you know, making the music and you know, A, B, C, and D. So I would say, you know, in that, for me personally, finding amusement with it and finding some joy in it. Like, I post things that make me giggle, and like, you know, if it makes somebody else smile, great. So finding that way to not make things a burden, I think, is the hugest advice that I could give, even all the way down to like songwriting, right? Like, in songwriting, like, don't make music for other people. Make music that you'd want to listen to. And if you want to listen to it, someone else will want to listen to it, and have that be your bar of, like, you know, success. If you make a song that you genuinely think is good, and you would like listen to it, that, I think for me personally, that was always my bar. And I think that goes all around. Like, it's not about pleasing the external, it's about pleasing your own internal compass, and finding connectivity through all these different outlets, so that it isn't a burden and it's just value added to your life.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to like how much of a, I don't want to say brand because that sounds inauthentic, but like aesthetic that you've built around your, you know, your presence online and your music and everything. Like I was when I was researching for the interview, I would see pictures of people being like, "This is my outfit for the Kitty Craft concert," and like,
oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
yeah, the fact that you know your music and your presence and everything can translate into a certain way to dress that aligns with it is like, it really speaks to the power of all these multimedia things coming together to create like a feeling and a vision for your work.
Thank you. That's so nice. And you know, if anything, it's like my goal. I don't necessarily want to be like this is the vibe that you should follow. I'm just more encouraging of everybody like finding their own voice. I know that might sound really cliche, but in truth, it's like just self-empowerment is so what I would love to see everybody find in themselves, and whatever that is.
That kind of like reminds me, as I was surprised too, as I was like doing research for this interview. I like listening to your music. For me, it was always like it was all of it's very emotional, but it's also very like more happy and uplifting. Than to find that like, especially like those first releases like were more emotional. And you said you like, I saw you saying you wrote them in more of like a dark place. Like I never, like I like the like again it was emotional for me. I wouldn't say it was full like smiles, joy, skipping, sunshine, but it's still like I was surprised to hear that it was like that there was like a like sadder, darker, more like depressive undertone. And like talking to like as you're talking about like how people like take what you make and make it their own thing. I'm curious like what you're like how it's been for you as like you made something with this intention that you enjoyed, but it came for you in a very dark place, and it's been then like received and built into this. Like I know that you have no like well, but I'm just curious like how it's like how that's been like the kind of contrast between like your initial like thoughts and feelings creating it and then
I am humbled, and I am just so appreciative of anybody who finds what I do in any way interesting. You know, it's I think it's been an incredible ride to see your work touch a whole new audience and be rediscovered, really. And I think maybe the work resonates because there is a kind of warmth to it, and there's like a familiarity, so it's like nostalgic, but most of the people that were like the music now wasn't even alive. And when that, you know, that sound, you know, because the sound is like almost like 70s through the 90s aughts, you know, so there's this kind of warmth, and like maybe that's why people respond to it. I don't know.
Yeah, and like even just like going past that too, it's just interesting that like I'm just wondering for you as like an artist as a whole too, like you know, like especially now that you've experienced like you've made something and then it's kind of grown into its own beautiful creation past what you ever could have imagined. Like
Totally.
Like as you're making art now in the modern day, how does that like affect your mentality making art now, and how do you kind of like I'm curious about that too.
Well, it's interesting because I did, you know, step away from music for a very long time, right? And so, and in that time, I was really focused on visual artwork, and so my creative brain and my communicative brain has been, you know, riding different circuits for a while, and you know, the work that I have been doing, you know, up until recently, has been more on a conceptual basis. So it's always like the idea is really important to me, and the way it communicates is really important to me. And so, you know, now with the sort of reemergence of Kitty Craft and sort of revisiting that with like, you know, Pam 2.0 has been a really interesting invitation, but also challenge, right? Like, you know, the artwork I do is pretty serious and can have a political bent to it. And so I'm trying to honor this emergence of music and the people that constellate it in a way that honors both sides of myself as well. So I don't take it very flippantly. Like I don't take it sort of like, but I really value the community, and I'm sort of approaching it from different sides as a visual artist in this post-studio kind of more politically based work. And then I've got like, you know, the music, which is, you know, total emotive, gut-based, type things with some messages, of course, but I think I'm still finding my way in that, and finding where the two overlap in the Venn diagram of like art and music and like how they communicate. And I think the longer I do this, this 2.0, I'm starting to see inroads, and I find it very exciting.
Yeah, that's really that's so interesting. Like working, in multiple mediums, but I guess beyond multiple mediums, like working in completely different media. But that reminded me that I wanted to ask you. I looked at your portfolio for some of your like visual art or your more recent stuff, and a lot of it, or I think everything I saw was incorporated installation into it, and the space that it's in. And I think with installation or public art, it's always so interesting. You could talk forever about like what the space does to the artwork and how it transforms how people interact with it, or the meaning they derive from it. It's just like an infinite number of factors that change it. And I was wondering if you ever think about that in regards to music now that you've been performing live again, like how that's shaped by the venue and the crowd, and how people's experiences might be different when they're hearing these songs live for the very first time, when before they've just heard them in a very a studio environment.
I think it kind of goes back to that Venn diagram I just mentioned of like, what are the two, what can fulfill both of those kind of parts of my brain, if you will. And I think the best thing about playing live, and the thing that kind of touches both for me a bit, is the sense of community and the sense of building a community, and the power of community. Like, I think we're all, these are crazy days, obviously, and trying to find how we can move through that in a positive sense. And so I think I'm trying to find what that is. I don't know if I have the answer. I think there's still a question mark for me there. So it's not like, all wrapped up in a bow at this point for myself. Yeah. But the experiences I've had meeting people have just been so life affirming, and I feel very appreciative. I feel very protective. I feel like I really have come to love the people that surround themselves with, or involve themselves in my music. And so I don't quite know how that's going to articulate itself in total yet. I'm still in a state of figuring that out.
Yeah, I think like I hadn't even thought about it till you were talking, but like the difference between making something that kind of stands on its own and people interact with, versus the community of a concert where you're so directly kind of interacting with your audience and getting to be in community with them. I think that's something very beautiful, and your outlook on it is so interesting and inspiring, especially as an artist or as someone who makes anything. Like the ability to see firsthand the way your work is affecting people and changing things is really wonderful.
Thank you, Connor. That's so nice. I think that I've always, if I can be of assistance or be able to evoke some sort of be a change agent in any way positive, like I'm honored to do that, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
As we talk about community too, I've been thinking a lot about community for myself lately, and also about the internet, because the internet does feel so integral to so much of the world that I live in. So it's hard to really separate a lot of my reality from the internet. And we're talking about concert community. I'm curious for you, how community has kind of your ideas of community have kind of evolved with the internet, especially you having such a dominant, such a strong community on the internet too, of Kitty Craft fans and stuff. I'm curious on your thoughts about internet and community specifically.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what those edges are for myself. Community can be a lot of different things. Community, for me, some of the top things I see, information dissemination. It can be some sort of movement in that way, that information can get across to large amounts of people, which I think is really interesting and a powerful quality of it. I also feel like I want to lift up, and I want to, if anybody walks away with anything, is that they can do it too. Like, I'm no different than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so just the empowerment of like, everybody has this in them. I'm nobody. and that, you know, just to see the power in each person, for everybody to see and not be afraid of risk taking. And I mean, if that is such a huge message for me. You know how you have like ideas in your head and you're like, oh, and then your inner dialogue goes, oh, I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, that's a great idea, but oh. And if I could just invite people to go, well, what would happen if you did it? You know, and just like allow people and encourage people to be fearless.
Mm-hmm.
is really something I feel impassioned about.
Do you think that's like an outlook you've developed as you've matured, or, you know, gone into Kittycraft 2.0, or was that always kind of a philosophy that influenced your music from the beginning?
I mean, I think it's definitely something that happens as you age.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's come through teaching, really,
Mm-hmm.
where I see a lot of self-limiting and fear of failure, and therefore vis-a-vis a fear of taking a risk. Mm. And I see that a lot in students, you know, and I like to be a cheerleader for risk-taking. Because, you know, it's like, I think more and more as the years have gone on, I see more fear for that. And so I just want to be a support network for people to, like, sounds so cheesy, but believe in themselves and not be afraid to fail. Like, I feel like it's this big boogeyman that, you know, it really shouldn't be. Like, everything I do, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I really don't. But I do. The only difference between now of me and like maybe me way back in 1.0 is that I trust I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
that's it.
Uh-huh.
That's so important.
Only
now.
difference.
Yeah, I think it's scary.
If I don't know, I'll find somebody, or I'll look it up, or I'll watch a YouTube video, and everybody has that in them.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the duality of now, and with so much resources, it's like one of my immediate thoughts is always, well, someone's already done it and they've already done it better than I could ever do it. But on the flip side, you have so many resources of people that are, you know, just giving away knowledge and ready to teach you and help you, you know, learn and grow in your own creative process. And so, like, kind of trying to focus in on that and the beauty of being able to access so much and be inspired by so much versus letting it kind of discourage you and make you feel like, you know, it's all been done before is I think so important.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that, like, you could easily get it in your head that it's all been done before, right? But you haven't done it, right? So you haven't done it. So your take on it has not existed in the world. And so, in fact, it hasn't all. That cannot be replicated.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about too. Like, I feel like, at least for me, it feels like there's so much visibility in everything you do, and there's like, with everything being so connected, it feels like there's so much pressure where everything I do feels so seen by everybody around me. There's such like it feels like it's so easy to attach so many like intense and serious ideas to this art I make. And like, I've been personally trying to work on like trying to learn how to have fun with the art I make for myself, and that sounds like that's kind of a little bit what we're talking about too. But maybe it's a little more. But I'm curious, like, on your thoughts about that too, like as it comes to kind of learning to have fun and really just enjoy making your art first and foremost.
A lot of times, like when I'm teaching drawing, I will draw alongside with the students once I've kind of checked in with everybody. And I run into struggles as I'm drawing. And I think, like, sometimes I'll be like, did anybody figure out that handle on that cup? And like, then we have like a group discussion, you know? And I think it's having fun with the questions. I don't even call them mistakes. or unknowns, but they're just questions. And getting people really comfortable with that, those questions. I think there's a fear in questions, and they're just questions. And so to show them that I struggle too. And so it just invites people to feel more comfortable within that space in themselves.
Has that idea of like, wanting to, love the work you do and put it out there, just, for the sake of it, because you haven't done it before, has that like been any influence on like your recent releases? I know a lot of them have been unreleased or previously stuff that's never been accessible via streaming and things like that. And, I think many people would maybe just sit on them forever and doubt that they deserve to be out there. But has your philosophy kind of influenced your willingness to share so many things that people haven't heard before?
For sure. I mean, I'll be straight up. I'm a double Virgo. If anyone can nitpick, I've got a degree in nitpicking. So for sure, I think that I'm a lot less. My journey is relaxing in that, and I've come to learn it's really not it's not up to me to say if it's good or bad. Yeah. So it's not up to you to say if your art is good or bad. That's up to the historians. Right? And so there's a lot more relaxation about putting things out there and letting them live. Once they're outside of you, they're kind of their own. I mean, the real bad stuff I still kind of like I'll rework, but I did have a nice cache of unreleased music, and sure, I think there's some things that I put out there that maybe back in 1.0 I might not have, because I was so nervous about it not reflecting this or that, and so yeah I think just remembering that it's not up to you to say it's good or bad.
And as we're like talking about intention behind like art, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like when it comes to like your music versus your visual art, like you definitely, the way you approach it and like the kind of intention and footsteps you take up to that are very different. With music, it might be a little bit more used to like more gut feeling based or something more, yeah. And I'm curious, like even within that, if like if there's been any themes that people like you haven't like that you kind of seen your art that hasn't really been recognized in like discussions of your art, and also if there's any themes that you've kind of like on the back end as you kind of like more casually make this music, but I wonder if there's any themes that you kind of noticed like on the back end for yourself that have kind of like revealed themselves over time.
Well, I'm starting to write new music again, which has been really fun and very interesting to kind of revisit. Also, talk about like not knowing what you're doing. I've had to completely figure out like the advances in like music technology platforms. Like I knew my stuff back then, but like, in these years things have advanced. So I had to kind of like figure stuff out. Going back to the earlier statement, I think in sort of approaching my new musical output, I would say that I'm having a lot more fun with wordplay, and I'm feeling a little less pressured to have like a distinct message. I'm kind of just starting it, so I don't really know how it's going to firm up or shape up or what direction it's going to take, but I can say for myself that I'm really enjoying immersing myself in poetry, wordplay, and having fun in that. That's been really enjoyable. And being open to experimentation and allowing things to happen. I think before, like, Kitty Craft used to be really, like, guitar-centered. Like, when I first started, it was kind of guitar-focused, and then I started experimenting with, like, record skips and things like that, and it kind of led me here. And before I was like, once I started doing that and loops and stuff, like, the guitar stuff was, like, dead to me. No one should hear it. And now that I've seen it kind of, like, from an objective view, I totally see the overlap. So I'm like thinking about guitar, integrating that back into it, and just you get to see it with a different kind of objectivity.
Do you ever find yourself returning to like, analog methods or older
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like tools just for the comfort of it, or just for out of the joy?
For sure. All of the above. Like I'm definitely like traversing, ways I made music the last time I made music. And I guess I'm not narrowing, I'm at least I'm trying not to narrow and put blinders on as to how to make music. And I'm trying to be open and realize that just because I write it on a guitar as opposed to this way doesn't make it any less cohesive within a larger body.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask, expanding on the releasing older tracks from earlier, like what is your, or what has been like your journey with I guess keeping them or preserving them and then rediscovering them years later? Because I think I'm generally very much a hoarder of half-finished projects or anything that I've touched slightly in case I can use it later. But other times, if I really reject something, I'm like, oh, I want to delete it and have it out of the world. So how did you hold on to those things and preserve them? Do you think that you anticipated maybe I'll release these one day?
I didn't really think about it. It really wasn't until I was dating. I started dating Garrett, and he's the one that really started this whole thing because he was like, "Oh, you have this back catalog. We should put Beats and Breaks out on digital. You're not on there." And I'm like, "Oh, that's such a good idea." So really, I kind of give it to him. It really wasn't my idea. And so I've just kind of followed his lead on that and suggestion and in terms of, I always kept an archive. I always had CDs and stuff. And, when we were drilling down and starting to put more and more out, some of them were on DAT tapes. I don't even think DAT exists anymore. So I had to find a DAT tape player, rent it, and transfer that digitally. So I just happened to lug all this stuff with me. And, ever since I was really young, I've always just kind of kept, if there was an article or, this tape I made, I just kind of kept it in a box. Mm-hmm. And so it's your archive, it's your life's work. So even if you think it's useless, it's not up to you to judge that in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to our we have it so good now in terms of preserving things, but then it still comes as a surprise when some things get lost. I think there's a whole obsession with lost media or stuff that just disappears. We at the station, in the past month, we found and recording a promo from Outkast that we didn't realize we had, and that had never been digitized. And so if we hadn't found that piece, we never would have had it.
Gold, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to follow the narrative of it. And and I think in some ways it connects back to music being passed down by oral tradition. There's the ways that we keep it are so fickle, but once you preserve it, then everyone gets to enjoy it from then on.
And kind of going back to what you said about, it's already been done. Think about music being passed from an oral tradition. It doesn't stay exactly the same way, right? Everybody has their take on it, I would assume. And so over the years, there's this kind of viewpoints absorb it and then they do it in their way. Even if they're replicating it exactly, it's still, slightly different.
And now with the internet too, it's on such a larger scale because a lot of that was often localized or location based. But now with the internet, it's everywhere, it's everybody, and it's crazy to see how you can reach. I haven't looked into this, and I don't know. Actually, this might be very quick, but I'm curious if you've noticed any more in not in the West. If there's any Kitty Craft talk of Kitty Craft not in the West, and I'm just curious. Actually, I hadn't seen anything about that. But have you noticed any is there anybody from what most people I know and most of what I've seen online is people in the West kind of that really enjoy Kitty Craft. But is there any enjoyment in other places in the world they've noticed?
Yeah, on some of the streaming platforms, you can kind of see what countries and how many followers, and there's in Mongolia.
That's so cool. That's
there's 5 people listening. God bless them. So I'm always blown away, when I see any numbers coming from anywhere. Number one, but number two in the, across the world. It blows my mind. It blows. So yeah, they're there. Maybe they're not huge numbers.
Yeah, but still,
But
like it's
I
just,
see you. I see you, Bhutan.
like it's crazy to think that like these thoughts and you like these emotions that you poured out from like your perspective are like reaching such a crazy audience. Like wow, like that's
Yeah.
like, you know.
It is really weird and freaky and wonderful.
You know, some of the strange beauty that comes with the internet and art.
Yeah,
You know?
transcending not just time but space. Like
Yeah.
everybody's access to it. I think when you were talking about like, you know, putting your own spin on things like that, it made me think of how you feature remixes on a lot of your EPs, or if you do like a special edition. And I think that could be such a motivating factor if you know, if you didn't make the original song, someone wouldn't have been able to, you know, flex their creative juices and express themselves through remixing it. So I think that speaks to your like philosophy of putting it out there. It can be a really beautiful thing that your art can not only inspire people, but they can directly use it to make their own things.
Exactly.
And I'm just pointing it out right now. I'm noticing that the Zoom
Oh, yeah, we have
giving
about
us
a
an
minute and a
alert
half.
that we have a minute and a half.
Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to say to the Album 88 Atlanta audience?
Oh my goodness. I'm just so excited to see you and meet you. And I'm super excited for the Atlanta show. It's our last day on tour. So, you know the music's going to be like tight like a pin. And I'm just so looking forward to celebrating with everybody because it's our last day on tour. So come on down and come say hi, and it'll be a blast. I got stickers and little treats to throw out.
Oh, I'm so excited. That's such a perfect ending to
I know,
the
Halloween,
end of
like,
October,
wow,
Halloween.
I know, right?
Like, wow,
So, and
beautiful
even if
finale.
you go trick or treating and then come to the show.
And go to the Halloween plans afterwards. All right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we're at the minute warning.
I don't want to
so
ask any more
I
questions.
don't want
yet.
to abruptly cut us off, but thank you so
Okay.
much for joining us today. It's been lovely to talk
Yeah,
to
it's
you
been
about
so
your
lovely. Yeah.
creative process. and-
Absolutely. It's so lovely to meet you, Connor and Spiegel, and I look forward to seeing you when I get to Atlanta.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person. It's gonna be so like,
IRL,
excited, yeah.
IRL.
IRL, yeah. I'll get down with the lingo. All right,
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna fit in. So
Thank you
Okay,
so
I'm
much.
so
have a
glad we
lovely
made this
day.
yeah,
You too.
yeah.
Best of luck on your tour. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
going to
fig
be
look,
Thank you.
fig look.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that.